This trailer is for a movie that I expect is probably gonna not be so wonderful. Uh, just, I don't know. I might be wrong. But it's for a movie called Daniel Isn't Real, and I will fully confess to the fact that the main reason that I bookmarked this thing, well, the title is a little bit intriguing, okay? Makes you think something's up, like some sort of mystery thing. But it says this is a Patrick Schwarzenegger movie. So I love Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I did not know that any of his kids were getting into acting, or if I did, I forgot. But I'm very curious to see how his son performs in this movie. So let's go ahead and check it out. Excuse the noise. My kids are banging around over there in the other room.
It's common for people to see things that aren't real.
Horror. Oh, it's a Shudder movie?
Have you ever seen things like this before?
I had an imaginary friend when I was a kid. His name was Daniel. He was my best friend. He was my only friend.
It's kind of a strange notion, but maybe you should try to connect with that part of yourself again. You need my help.
He's back.
Last time I saw you, you were this kid bursting with imagination.
You need to break out and live.
So I guess Daniel is Patrick Schwarzenegger. I mean, it looks like him.
You're a painter?
You're an artist too, Luke.
I do photography sometimes.
I'm here because you're here. I'm part of you.
What's that thing behind me?
Your shadow saw something full of danger, mystery.
He's taking over, it's making me do things that I don't want to do.
You do this.
I imagined it. I can make you go right.
Daniel is simply an aspect of your mind.
I'm scared of what I can do. When you painted me, you saw a shadow. What did he look like?
He's weak. He's lonely.
It's not him.
And he's nothing without me.
Okay. Let's go back and look at that cast list again, you guys. So, when it showed the first guy, who I think is the protagonist, is the protagonist of the story, I saw him, and the first person he reminded me of was Cole Sprouse, or his brother, the twins. But I knew it wasn't him because I've seen, I think it's Cole who's in Riverdale. I can't tell them apart, those two kids. But he reminds me of him, and I think I've seen this kid in some other stuff before. But at first I was like, is that Patrick? No, I don't think so. That does not look like Patrick. But I've only seen pictures of Patrick Schwarzenegger. I've never really watched him in any videos, I don't believe, and definitely not in any movies. So then when it showed Patrick, I'm like, okay, that's him. He seems like he's doing okay in here, not a horrible job. So maybe he's got some acting skill going on, and I'm curious to check out this movie just because of that, to be honest. But also, no, not just because of that. This looks like the type of movie that I would like. And I've seen stuff like this before, where some entity within this person or whatever starts to take over control of the person and, extends outward into their life and affects people in their life. So this premise is nothing really new or all that unique, but it's been done before, basically. But a lot of movies have. I mean, it's very rare. In fact, I have heard it mentioned that there's really no such thing as an original idea, because everything we see is basically just something that has been remanufactured from something else. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I get the point. Basically, everything we see, movies and stories, they're all themes and ideas that have been presented before, but in other packages, like in other ways. It's just the way things are retold that makes them interesting and can make them stand out from something else that's like that. So, you know, but all that to say, this is not a new premise, but I am interested to see where this goes, to find out, you know, if this is going to have a good or bad result for our protagonist. I guess it depends on what he does in the movie under the control of, I guess, his imaginary friend Daniel. If he steps over certain lines, I expect that he will not have a good ending. That's typically what happens if a good guy is taken over by this bad entity and he does things under the control of that bad entity, things that, and you know what the line is, like let's say if an innocent has been killed as a result or whatever, a lot of times the protagonist has a bad ending himself. Things don't end well for him. So I expect that if he does something like that, this may be the case. Or he may seem to prevail, but then in the end we find out Daniel's still around. He hasn't really been destroyed. I mean, that's kind of pretty typical too for horror movies. But I guess we won't know till we see it. So curious to check it out. So it says it's Shudder. I guess that means, well, if it's got the Shudder name attached to it, then that must mean it's going to show up on my Shudder subscription or my Shudder streaming service. So I will be checking this out and returning to this thread to talk about it whenever I get a chance to see it. The trailer itself was just under 2 minutes long. I felt like it was a little bit long in some aspects because some of the stuff they kept showing, like I said, repetitive type of scenes that they were showing. I don't feel like they needed to show us as much as they did for us to get the idea of what was going. Oh, the visual effects. I'm sorry, I get distracted by these names. I just noticed the visual effects supervisor. His name is George A. Loucas. Laucas or Lucas? That's funny. Okay, sorry. It had nothing to do with what I was talking about. What was I talking about? What was it? It's still morning, you guys. What was I talking about? Oh, shoot. Oh, yeah, that I feel like the trailer went on a little bit too long. A lot of times when they are showing montage or, you know, scenes from the movie and they intersperse it with this text, greatest film you've ever seen, a masterpiece, blah, blah, blah. That starts to get a little bit, sometimes depending on how it's done, it can start to like grate on my nerves a little bit. It's like, oh, we don't need to see, you're taking up frames by putting this stuff in there. We don't really need to see this. Maybe one, but I understand the point of why they do it. You know, it's because good things have been said about their film. Well, unless it's something that they completely made up, which might be possible. But, and they want to, they feel like putting that out there will help to give it weight and validity and convince the audience that it's worth checking out. I don't really need things like that to convince me whether or not I want to check something out. So I feel like it was just taking up time that they didn't need to be taking up with that. Anyway, but that's really the only thing I can think of with regard to a specific issue with the trailer. Other than that, yeah, I'll check this out sometime and I'll come back here and maybe we can talk about it. If anyone else ends up watching it, or if I'm the only one, I'll just talk with myself. Okay, you guys, that's it for now. Bye.